friends, welcome to my channel. I am JCM Berne, author of Wistful Ascending and the rest of the Hybrid Helix. I brought props today, very excited. I'm prepared. And this is Book Burning, a show where I talk about books, comics, movies, and today other media, but I promise to never ever burn a book. And today, once again, I have committed myself to a topic via Twitter poll. You can tell I've been procrastinating because I'm in the middle of drafting book 4 of the Hybrid Helix. I can't show it to you because there's no cover yet. And today I'm going to talk about social media use for creators. When I say creators, mostly I'm talking about authors because author. I'm sure much, or most, or maybe everything that I say will be applicable to other types of creators. I don't know. I've never been another type of creator unless you count this channel, but you probably shouldn't. So, also, right before I start, in case you are misguided in watching this, if you are looking for the type of video where you get a plan or guidelines to growing your social media presence, sort of how to gain 10,000 Twitter followers, something like that, this is not that. I am not an expert on that topic. You can check my subscriber numbers on this channel or look at my Twitter feed, check how many followers. That's not my thing. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm not trying to give you that sort of information. Instead, when I say social media use for creators, I'm going to talk about things I can say that will help you have a fulfilling personal experience on social media, whoever you are. Or guidelines to doing that. Some ways of thinking about social media that may help you have a better personal experience with social media. Again, nothing wrong with those videos telling you how to grow your audience. Like, watch them. I'm sure some of them have great content. I have no idea. But that's not what this is. So, then you may say, well, Joe, who are you? Like, what makes you qualified to talk about this topic? You don't have 10,000 followers. But again, I'm not making a how to get 10,000 followers video. I'm talking about how to be happy on social media. And the answer is, I am happy on social media. I like social media. Getting on my social media every day, to me, maybe I might do it too much. On some level, it might be like sort of, I wouldn't say addiction, but certainly a suboptimal amount of usage. But I am not the sort of person, but here's the thing. I have known many people who feel that their social media experience makes them upset and angry. They go, oh, I can't believe I was on Twitter and it's a hate fest and I'm miserable now. And every time I go on that thing, I come off it and I'm just pissed. And I'm like, you're doing it wrong. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not trying to be mean. But if you come off Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and you're angry and upset, and you're not happy and you're uplifted on some level, you're doing it wrong. And maybe I can help you do it right because I'm kind of again I have a generally positive experience with social media. It makes me generally feel better. It enhances my life, and it's been that way for a long time. In 2011, I started working from home. And immediately, social isolation set in, and that's when I really got to start spending a lot of time on like Facebook and I'm not an introvert. That's the other side of it. I'm working from home, and I'm kind of an extrovert, so I really needed a way to form connections with humans, and I was too lazy to spend a lot of time in bars, and for whatever reason, I turned to social media, and I've been doing it ever since, and it's been great for me, and I thought I'd share. Okay, so. You know me, I'm going to start off with some ways of how we should think about social media. So, I have to start with definitions. What do I mean with social media? You know what I mean. But I'm going to just say platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Discord where you interact with other people. Instagram, which is a little more one-directional. You're more putting things out that other people can appreciate. It's less... Since you don't really share on Instagram, it's less interactive, but still there's some interaction there. Reddit, all interaction. Patreon, which is a little more limited in scope. You're not going to have, if you have 1,000 Twitter followers, you're probably not going to have 10,000 people on your Patreon. You'll have a subset of that. So it's still, I get to interact with them. A little more, you put out stuff that they can use. Kickstarter has become kind of a social media platform because when you do run a Kickstarter, people will find out about you and begin a relationship with you because they saw your Kickstarter. I'm not super familiar with that, but I know it happens. YouTube is a little bit of a YouTube, social media platform. You know what I mean. And if I left some out, I'm sure I left some out. There's like Mastodon, Blue Sky, God only knows. I have no idea. This is not meant to be a complete list. This is meant to be a sample. Okay. I'm going to say that if you are a creator, your newsletter also counts as social media. I thought I put that in my notes. What happened to my notes? This is terrible. Past me. Shame on you. Your newsletter is part of your social media platform, and I might think of more later on. I don't know. Something. Okay. So, what is the problem with social media? And I think I'm going to say very generically, people who use social media who are not happy about it are using it wrong. They are making a mistake either in what they do on social media or what they are looking for. When those things are misaligned, when the actions that you perform on the platforms you choose are not the kind that get you the responses you want, you're doing it wrong and you're not going to be happy. I mean, it's a very sort of simple in theory, but let's go into some details. So the first thing is, I'm a former philosopher. So there's this term called, it's a Greek word, Greek or Latin? Ooh, I should know that, but I don't. Qua. And qua is usually translated as in as much as. It's a terrible translation. It's very hard to, but here's the thing. You have to think of yourself as having like aspects, having different roles. We know this, right? So you have to think of yourself as like a person, as an entire person with a whole spectrum of needs and wants and desires and thoughts and feelings, okay? Then you have to think of yourself in as much as you're an author or a professional, in as much as that's, or a creator, right? In as much as you are a person who wants to sell books to people, right? That's sort of your professional persona. So there's you, and then there's you qua author. Maybe I'll stop using that word. But you as an author. So something that you do might, you might get interaction where you, so someone insults you, or you don't feel very good about it, or you don't feel good or bad about it, but it sells a book. As an author, that might be a successful interaction. As a person, it might be a null or unsuccessful interaction. So when you are doing things in your social media, you have to think, am I doing this for me as a person, or am I doing this for the sake of my career or my business? I think in here, I'm saying career and business very synonymously. In my capacity as a person who's trying to sell books. And those are, of course, you as a professional is part of you as a whole, but it's not the whole thing. So those are two separate ways you need to look at the outcomes you get, and I'll give you details. Don't worry. You know I'll give you details. You know I will. You need to look at those and remember, am I thinking about this as how it's helping and hurting my career? Am I thinking about career/business? Am I thinking about this in terms of how it's helping or hurting my overall being, my emotional state? And those are two ways to look at your social media activities, and that will, which one you are trying to address will determine to some extent what you're doing and where you're doing it, and you have to think about those things and balance them. Okay, so as an author or as a creator, as a business person, as a professional, I also think it helps to divide up what you're doing on social media into three general categories, and there's going to be overlap. If you do something that addresses one of these groups, it'll also to some extent address the others, and I'll go into details. What do I mean? So the most obvious is you may be as a creator, you might be using social media to try to connect with consumers, the buyers, the readers. I call them readers because I'm an author. For the people who are going to read your book, presumably buy and read your book, right? That's kind of the point. Kinda. So there are things you're going to do that are going to try to connect to the readers, the people buying your book. But then there are things you're going to do that might connect you instead with your peer group. Your peer group meaning other writers and other professionals. And you might think, well, how does it help me as a professional to talk to another writer? First of all, that other writer might become a reader. I buy plenty of my friends' books, and plenty of my friends have bought my books. So there's an overlap. There's also a sense where if you can connect with other writers, other of your peers, and other writers, you can learn things from them. They might give you advice. They might help you with that problem you've been having with Ingram Spark. They might help you figure out the best way to run ads. They might hook you up with an editor that works for you in terms of having a compatible style. There's all sorts of things that they can do for you as a professional. And then there's that Remember I said we're going to think about professional and in a personal sense, hooking up with other authors, connecting with other authors through social media. Also, they're going to become your friends, which is, again, that's not directly a professional benefit, but it's a personal benefit. We like having friends, right? Unless you're really an introvert and friendship just drains you, in which case, I don't know, go talk to someone else. So that's a kind of connection you can make through social media, and then you can think about what are you doing through what's another group you can target or another group you can connect with is the meta consumer. I don't know if that's the right word for it. I just made that up. Literally made that up. It's not even in my notes. I made that up right now. The person who is going to not necessarily could be another writer, not necessarily, but a person who is going to connect you to more readers. So my friend Mike buys my book, reads my book, that's lovely. But my friend Mike reads my book, loves my book, posts a review on Amazon. Now he's giving me a chance to reach other people. He's generating sort of advertising for me. Other people might see that review and choose to buy the book. My friend Mike runs a blog, and there's a blog post about it where he's got X number of readers of his blog. Now we're talking about a meta consumer, right? Now we're saying that now I'm connecting with someone who can themselves do things that connect me with more people. So I've had a lot of connections with like booktubers. A booktuber will make a connection with them. They'll read the book. If they like the book, they might do a video about it. They might mention it in their monthly wrap up. They might convince other people behind the scenes, other reviewers. So you've got your reading community, your consumers, you've got your meta consumers, the people who will connect you with more of those, and then you've got your peers who in a sense are competing with you, but they're also going to help you because they're going to give you thoughts and ideas. And frankly, it's a big market. Like you're not really competing with other people for readers. That's there's not only a fixed number of readers who are reading. The more people read books, the more people are going to read more books. It's not a zero-sum game. That's a topic for another video, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. So why am I making these points? You will find that different sort of activities on different platforms are going to reach different segments of this population differently. A good example, people go on Twitter, and Twitter is a great way to meet, to connect with other writers. Twitter is a great way to connect with meta consumers, the bloggers, the booktubers. I think I'm missing something in my set of meta consumers. I'm thinking book bloggers and booktubers. I'm sure there's another whole category. If you're in that category, I'm terribly sorry. I'm not trying to offend anybody. Those people are great to connect with on Twitter. And I have personally had many people say to me, oh, I read your book because you reached out to me through... I got my start reaching out to someone on Twitter. That's how I got my very first a review from like a person who's connected to the community, and that person then went on to connect me to booktubers who go on YouTube, put Wistful Sending in the search bar. There's a lot of people who have reviewed my book, and that all started with Jordan Buxton, who I tweeted, "Do you want my book?" Okay, so Twitter's a great way to do that. Now, Twitter, unless you already have a huge Twitter audience because of something you do, some topic you cover, Twitter's probably not the best way to sell your book directly to consumers. You're not going to meet a whole bunch of readers. Readers don't go to Twitter usually to find new things to read. Some people do. Okay, nothing is a hard and fast rule. There are definitely people who do. I have definitely had readers say, I saw your tweet, I thought it was funny, so I read your book. That has happened. But you are not going to build a career on readers you find by tweeting stuff unless you have a huge Twitter audience. If you're a popular television personality and you have a bunch of followers on Twitter and then you release your book, you definitely want to tweet about it because those people are gonna potentially buy your book. But if you're an author primarily, if that's like me, you write fiction, you're not going to accumulate 50,000 Twitter followers first. You can't. You don't have that. You don't have the power to do that. Okay, so Facebook is a great way to connect to other writers. And to a certain lesser extent, in my experience, meta professionals, Discord, same thing, Instagram, a little bit of both, Reddit. If you invest the time in Reddit, if you become a part of a Reddit community like Our Fantasy, if you become trusted there, and this takes time and it takes effort and energy, my understanding is it's a great way to reach consumers. There's a lot of readers on Our Fantasy. I'm saying Our Fantasy because I'm a fantasy writer. Other genres, I'm sure they have something equivalent. Reddit can definitely connect you with consumers directly, but it takes an investment. If you just go on Reddit and you try to just post a link to your book on our fan, they're going to delete it faster, so it'll make your head spin. Don't do that. So it takes investment. You have to become part of the community first, and then you can potentially sell to them. I have not done this, so I can't give you like specific guidelines. Patreon is kind of funny because Patreon can get you more revenue from your existing fans. I have not done this. I'm considering it in a very relaxed way. I've had the thought. I keep playing with it, but I'm not sure I'll ever do it. The thing is, you will have, as a writer, you will have people who like your books, but then you'll have people who really like your books, hopefully, if they're really good, and you'll have people who want an extra special experience from your books. They don't just want to read your books on Kindle Unlimited. Again, you have people who want that, that's great. That's all they want. They read it, lovely, great. Maybe they'll review it, great. You have people who will want a more closer connection with you, with what you have to say. They'll think you're super great or whatever. And then that's where Patreon's nice because they want to give you more. They want special editions of your books. They want the leather-bound copy. They want the signed hardcover. Signed hardcovers available. DM me. They want more content. They want the early read, the rough drafts of your next chapter. They want your short story that might not be as great as your novels, but still something set in your universe. They want this extra stuff. You can give it to them, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, you're going to give me money every month, and I'm going to give you something you want." That's what this whole thing means, right? That's the whole process. That's how our society's organized, and if you don't like that, that's a whole nother topic for another day. So Patreon is a way to connect with those consumers almost very directly. Kickstarter is a way you can also not only get money from your existing fan base, but you can also find new fans. And I didn't realize this until very recently. I've never done a Kickstarter. I'm not saying I never will. I don't know. It's a thought. But people will go on Kickstarter and look for projects that sound interesting. So you will find people who might be on Kickstarter and discover your work through Kickstarter who would not have found you on Amazon. They would not have found you on Discord. They will find you through Kickstarter and will buy your book and become fans of your books because you ran a Kickstarter and they supported a low tier and they got a paperback copy or whatever. So you can connect again with consumers. Again, you're not going to connect with the reviewers that way. You're not going to connect with other writers that way through Kickstarter. I mean, again, you will sometimes. It will happen occasionally. But main thrust, it's not going to work. YouTube, I don't know what YouTube is good for. I have no idea. I'm sure it's good for a lot of stuff. I don't know anyone. Okay, so if you build a big YouTube following doing other stuff, then I'm sure they will buy your book. Philip Chase, Way of Adon, right? He's a popular YouTuber. A lot of people heard about that book. Where if he had just been an English professor with no online presence, his book would not have had the kind of surge. And I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it. It does deserve it. But I'm saying he reached a lot of people where if he had just been a guy in his, house publishing this book, he wouldn't have reached all the people. But again, he built that audience by being a really good booktuber for a really long time. Okay, so you, wherever you are as a creator, you've got to figure out who are you trying to reach. Which platform are you using and is it working? So if you are looking for other writers to connect with and you go on Discord, you'll probably have a good time of it if you go to the right servers. I don't want to blow up any particular server. I'm on a whole bunch. Feel free to DM me on Twitter or make a comment on YouTube if you want suggestions. I can suggest particular servers. But if you go on Discord and you think I'm going to sell 1,000 books by posting on this Discord, you're not. Discord just doesn't work. You're not reaching those kind of numbers. Maybe some of those authors that you meet will read your book and they'll promote it and you'll end up with 1,000 sales eventually. But it's not the most direct way. So you have to, again, people are often unhappy because they get on social media and they do things that don't actually work for their goals. They think, I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to sell a whole bunch of books. And then they meet a whole bunch of other writers, but they don't sell any books. And I'm like, you did the wrong thing for the wrong reason. So you can be unhappy at the result, but don't blame the platform. Okay, so, I did this twice. My notes are terrible. What is wrong with me? So we have meta consumers. Oh, the other word I had for meta consumers was influencers. Oh, I'm such a jerk. Influencers. Yeah, so the person is an influencer to the extent that they are doing things to promote your book, blogging about it, even just writing reviews, even just putting a rating on Amazon. Let's be honest. So readers and influencers, there's an overlap. Any reader who like posts a review or posts a rating, they're helping out. They're being an influencer. But also people who directly reach out and blog and so forth. Okay, so again, lots of overlap, different platforms. And in your genre, you need to find those peers and ask them how are they reaching readers, because I think in different genres they use some platforms will work better than others. And I don't have all the details. I don't know how romance writers reach readers, but I know they do because they make a ton of money, or many of them make a ton of money. So there must be ways. I don't know what those ways are, but you can find that out by going on the Facebook group for the romance writers. So Facebook might not be your way to get readers, but it might be your way to make connections with writers who tell you how to get readers, and maybe do a newsletter share with you, which ends up getting your readers. So you have to always think, what am I looking for? What am I getting? Okay, so lots of overlap, and that's a general overview of how you should be thinking about your social media presence. You have to think about having goals, and then whether you meet them or not. Okay, so what are the and I didn't really talk about what are the goals you can have for social media, just as in terms of you, not as an author, not as a career person, but as a person. And there you have, making connections, making friends, building relationships with people is inherently, for most of us, pleasurable, right? We like to have friends. We like to have. You go on Discord and someone's making some joke about cheese, and you post a GIF about cheese. I don't know why I picked cheese. That stuff can make you happy. If you expect that to get you a sale, you're going to be sad. If you expect that to contribute to your career, you're going to be sad. But if you say, oh, I had this amusing interaction with another writer and now I'm chuckling, and that is in itself a good thing, you might not be sad. You shouldn't be. You should never be sad that you made a connection with a person and it made you chuckle, right? This is inherently a good thing. Okay. So how do we operate on social media? And I'm going to give you some guidelines. Nothing here is groundbreaking. You can stop the video if you're expecting like some spark of genius. It's not going to happen. But this is stuff that has worked for me, and I don't think I don't know if I heard these things or if they're just common sense. Give more than you ask. So when you tweet, if you're going to put a tweet out like read my book, it's great, and put a link to the book, and it's this many stars, whatever you say. Self-promotion, that's phenomenal. But if all you do is self-promotion on Twitter, you will quickly find that people don't care. People don't want to hear it. People will think you are just there to post ads on Twitter, and they will stop engaging, or they will engage less. Some people will engage. Some people will eat that up. I don't know why. But generally speaking, you're not going to be successful. So I put a mathematical ratio in here, which is totally ridiculous. I don't know why I wrote this. But if you're going to tweet, like, I don't know the number. I don't know, like, if for every one tweet promoting your book, you need to tweet like 3 or 5 or 7 tweets promoting other people's stuff or retweeting other people's self-promotion. I don't know the number, but it's got to be like a number, right? I put down 3 to 1. I don't count. I don't go on Twitter and like, oh, I tweeted now I gotta 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I can do another tweet about me. I don't think that way. I don't count. Maybe you should, but if most of your if more than 10% of your tweets are just buy my book, you're not going to get engagement. No one's going to care about you. No one's going to click on that link. You don't forget, when you tweet, you're reaching the same people each time. And I know people who do this. This is not a made up. This is not a made up example. Okay, I don't want to name anyone. I'm not calling anyone out. If you think I'm calling you out, I'm sorry, but I know people who do this. Okay. And that's true for any platform. If you're on Reddit, you keep saying the same thing over and over again, no one's going to care. They're going to block you. If you're on Facebook, same thing. Discord, you can't just keep saying. You will see me do it, probably more than I should, read my book. But half the time it's kind of a joke, and it's usually when someone's saying, what should I read next? And I'm like, I hear superhero stories are cool. I kind of do that, but I kind of mean it more to be like funny and less to be a real pitch. I hope people take it that way. But if you follow me on Twitter, you might see those things, and again, I mean those as a joke, and maybe I do it too much. Maybe I should listen to my own rules here. Okay, to limit volume, if you put out like 100 tweets a day, I'm gonna block you because I don't want to hear it. Because I don't want to. My whole feed should not be like some dude from somewhere or some gal from somewhere saying like very repetitive. No one has 100 clever things to say in a day. Maybe there's a day where that happens, but not every day. Okay, so make sure you limit your volume. Make sure you post and use these social media platforms regularly. So you should be on them most days, but you should not put in so much stuff. Again, because unless you're some kind of bizarre genius, you're not going to come up with 100 funny, clever things to say in a day. So don't try to post 100 things. Post the 2 or the 5 or the 8 clever things you think of, and stop and don't count. Okay. The third one is kind of the opposite of that. If you think of something funny or clever or a joke or an update, share it at least some of the time. I find that I think people fall into like 2 different traps. One trap is they post everything. It's like on the toilet again. No one cares. Don't do that. Having a sandwich. Don't post that. No one cares. But then some people think, well, nothing I think or say is important, and they underpost. You know what? If you're halfway through your first draft of your new novel, you probably do want to post that. People who like your stuff, people who are following on social media, probably do want to hear that. Do you want to post a daily word count update? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You're getting iffy. Do you want to post an hourly word count update? Probably, almost definitely not. Unless you're Brandon Sanderson. Like if you have real fans, maybe you can get away with stuff like that. But generally, you want to find a happy medium. People do want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to hear what you have to say every 5 minutes. That's probably good life advice. I'll write that down. Okay. Politics. Okay. As a professional, if you are a political writer, as if you're writing books about the political parties, that's a whole different story. So ignore this. That's a whole different thing. But if you are writing like me, I'm writing like science fiction. If you're writing genre fiction, which is not inherently about the political process or about welfare, if you're not an economist, if you're writing about just escapist fantasy, escapist stories, you have very little to gain and quite a bit to lose as an author in your capacity as a professional by posting about politics, because politics are extremely divisive. And if you look, what happened recently? Former President Donald Trump was arrested in New York on, I forget the charges. I should know this. I did know this, but I forget all the details. Something like, anyway. A significant portion of the country thought that was great. And a significant portion of the country thought that was a travesty. And they felt very strongly, whichever camp they were in. So if you as a writer post, either way, thank God finally and arrested, or what a travesty that this happened. I don't care which one you are. But if you post either of those things, you are going to alienate close to half of the population. Maybe not half, but I'm sure there's a swath of people in the middle who just don't care and won't care what you tweet. But you, as a professional, in your capacity as a professional, as a business owner, it is almost never good. And I'll be honest too, if you have a progressive or if you have an audience member who cares, look, if someone cares about trans rights really deeply, again, for or against, I don't care, either way, and they don't see anything, you post anything about trans rights, you just don't mention it, you don't mention anything about it, they're not going to be, I'm not buying his next book. Very few people will do that. Very few people will look for you, and if you are just silent on the topic, you just go, I didn't say anything. They're not going to care very much, right? You're not going to alienate anybody. But what's going to happen is, as soon as you do come out and make a stance, you have a chance of really alienating some people. And as a professional, remember, talking about you got to view yourself in 2 different ways. As a professional, you don't want to do that. You're throwing money away, and people are not going to flock from the other side. If you say something very conservative and you alienate a bunch of liberal readers, other conservatives aren't going to flock to buy your Monster Hunter book, right? That's just not how people are. Unless you're a really important figure in that community, which you probably aren't. Because I said at the beginning, you're not that person. You're not going to make up those sales in some other way. Now, as a human being, as a person, as an overall person, not thinking of yourself in terms of your business and writing career, but thinking of yourself as a person, it might be important for you as a person to post about politics. You might, as a human being, feel like, I have a very strong feeling about trans rights, for or against. The transvestite is just really big deal right now. That's the only reason I bring it up. It could be any topic. You might feel, I really feel strongly about this. I really feel strongly about access to gender care for children in various states. It really matters to me that it's increased or decreased. And I really want to connect with, I really want to post this, and then when I see that I get 10 or 20 likes and requotes and shares, it's going to make me feel like I'm part of something, like I'm bonding with people, like they are my kin, my community is wrapped around me in this warm, fuzzy glow, and I need that today. That's fine, right? That's a fine use of social media, right? You can do that. You just have to know that if you do that, if you feel that it's worth it, that you want that connection with people, first of all, you're going to alienate some people. The connections may not work out so great. You may find that other people are strongly disagreeing with you wherever you are. You will, depending on who they are. And you will lose, most likely, you're going to lose sales, right? J.K. Rowling doesn't care, but her stance on transgender issues and rights has absolutely cost her money. Now, she's still got plenty, but she's decided that for her as a person, she believes in this. You may disagree with her, but she clearly believes in this strongly enough that she's okay having left millions of dollars on the table to make this stance. It matters to her. You can think she's great or terrible for that, but she's made it. It's not an irrational choice, right? It's not stupid. She's decided it's worth it to her. Again, you can disagree or agree. And you have to make the same kind of call. I don't know that I make. You should think about it carefully and make the right call for you. I don't want. It's unfortunate when someone posts about it and then they lose a bunch of readers and then they realize they didn't care, that it wasn't worth it to them. That's sad, right? But you make your call. Okay. No politics. I'm gonna say. As a business person, from that perspective, you want to try to be generally positive about things, about your life. You can share, like, it doesn't have to be important. You can share, like, oh, this is the cool burrito I made today. Check it out, like John Scalzi does. You can report about stuff. But if you are constantly or regularly posting negative things, and what I mean by negative is you're complaining about. I'm not saying your concerns and your issues and your troubles aren't valid at all. Everyone has hardships. Yours might be much bigger than the average person's. They might be much bigger than mine. But if you're posting about that stuff constantly on social media, as a business person, you are going to lose readers. You will gain some, but you will lose more. People don't want to hear about your health issues all the time. As a business, it's not a great move. People don't want to hear about your problems and your concerns all the time. Every once in a while, sure, but if you're always, oh, I'm stuck in traffic again, this place just where I live is just terrible, people will get tired of that. As a business, it's not a good move. As a person, it may be worth it to you. You may get something out of the interactions generated by that kind of thing. Maybe people send you little hug emojis. Maybe people sympathize. Maybe you connect with people with similar problems. Maybe you feel it's worthwhile as a person to share your trials and tribulations so that other people who have similar trials and tribulations don't feel alone. Maybe you're just shouting down and say, hey, I'm having a tough day. If you're having a tough day too, maybe this will make you, maybe that makes you feel better knowing that you might be helping someone else. That is completely valid. That is phenomenal. If that's how you, but that is you as a human being making a choice that may enhance your life as a human being. Probably not the best business move, at least not if you do it regularly. If you look at those popular authors, the people who make a lot of money on social media, they may do a post like that sometimes. I'm having a terrible day. I want everyone to know everyone has bad days. If you're having a bad day too, call me, message me, and I'll sympathize. But people who do that all the time do not end up with that kind of popularity and that kind of audience, or rarely. Okay, you've got to really limit it if you want to sell a lot of books. You got to limit that stuff. But if it's important to you to make those connections and you're okay sacrificing sales, great. That I have zero problem with that. I'm not telling everyone your only goal in life should be selling more books. Your goals in life should be your goals in life. You get to pick that. But you have to know what you're doing. And what you're doing is, if you were talking about your health problems and your family situation that's negative, and your problems with whatever your problems are, and I'm not minimizing those. I'm sure your problems are very real and very difficult, and I'm sorry, and I wish I could help. But if that's that's the thing you're posting about, most people aren't going to. Many people are going to stop listening, and that's just how social media works. So I wrote this. I don't know if I've already covered this, but so what does that mean? That means it is better to be. I don't know. I wrote "be yourself, be genuine" on social media, and that kind of depends on who you are. So I'm gonna have to think a little more about this. And I thought about it enough, but maybe I didn't. So if you are a very sort of negative, critical, maybe a person whose first reaction to things is to say something negative and critical, and to criticize and say, well, "What'd you expect? You're ugly after." And if you're like that, maybe you don't want to be yourself on social media. Maybe you want to try to be a little more positive and outgoing and supportive on social media instead. But you just need to know that the more genuine you are on social media, the less it will feel like work. Ideally, you can be really authentically you on social media, because then it won't be so hard. However, you're a writer. You can be whoever you want. You can play a character on Twitter who's funny and clever and positive and supportive, who's really not you. And that might be the better choice for you as a professional. You might sell more books that way. But it will feel like work. It will be harder to pull off, and you will have. There, you're making a trade-off, right? If you are not charismatic and not pleasant and not in real life and not good to talk to, then on social media, if you want to build your business, you want to play a character on social media who is those things, and you will have a better business. You will sell more books if people are, "Oh, this guy's great, this gal's great, they're funny and pleasant, and they say positive things, and they make everyone feel good. I'm going to keep following them and buy their books." You will just have a less satisfying personal experience, because you're not going to be building genuine connections with other people. They're not going to know the real you. If someone befriends you on Discord, when you play this role on Discord, you may get better advice, you may get more people like thinking highly of you, but the downside is you're going to know that's not the real you, and you're not going to feel a personal connection to them really in your heart, and you're going to lose. So you're making a trade-off there, and whether that trade-off is worth it or not to you is up to you. I'm not saying lie on Twitter. I'm just saying maybe be nicer than you really are. But keep in mind that it is going to be more work, and it is going to prevent you from feeling connected through those platforms if you are the self that you portray there is less authentically you, and that's a downside. And again, your call. You have to weigh these things. I'm just trying to give you tools and organizational principles to think about what these upsides and downsides are, so you can make that determination in sort of a clear-headed way. That's my goal with this video. Okay, so be yourself. Don't be yourself necessarily. Maybe be yourself. I should change that in my notes. Maybe be yourself. Last guideline, block early and often. If people are mean to you on social media, unless you are very thick-skinned, I strongly recommend blocking them. I tell this to my kids. I tell this to everyone. If I block people on Discord very quickly, if someone posts a couple things that upset me, I block them, and then I never see them again. And does that cost me sales? Maybe. But here's the thing. If someone posts something that upsets you, you should block them. Because clearly, you are sensitive to the sort of things they post. If what they posted is offensive but it doesn't upset you, you don't need to block them. But if it does upset you, block them, because otherwise you're going to go around upset every time they post something, and you don't need that in your life, right? No one reader is going to be worth getting upset, right? How many books are they going to buy, right? They just cut them off. It's blocking, and people feel sometimes very reluctant to block, like it's rude, and you got to get over that. It's not. It's fine. They're not going to care. They're not going to notice you anymore, and that's the way it needs to be. Now, if they say something that you strongly disagree with, but it doesn't upset you, then need to block them. But if it does, cut them off. And if you want to give someone like 2 chances or 3 chances, fine. Whatever you want. Whatever makes you feel sleep better at night. If you want to give someone 3 chances, great. But I don't. I'm very fast to block people. Book Twitter, for some reason, is extremely inoffensive, and it's a very lovely and supportive community, at least the indie community. So I've had to block very few people, but I will. And it's not a threat, right? They don't care. Who am I, right? But you need to do it. So I think, generally speaking, I'm going to conclude with this. So these are guidelines. Nothing here, again, nothing I said should feel controversial. Nothing I said should feel original, particularly. This is all stuff you've heard before. I'm just giving you sort of a framework for how to think about things. So here's the sort of the concluding paradox of social media. The more you focus your way of being on social media, the more it's guided by your professional desires. The more it's guided by, is this a good business decision? Will this result in more book sales, directly or indirectly? Will this get me further in my career? The more you focus on that, the more your social media experience will feel like work. The more you are making it an artificial thing, the more you're going through this decision tree based on your capacity as a professional, because it is work. That's what work is. Work is when you do things as a professional. The more that you let that guide your behavior, the more work will feel like work. Now, is that a bad thing? It depends on how much capacity for work you have. Like, I'm going to take me as an example. I have a day job. To a certain extent, writing books feels like work to me. It's work. It's effort. If I had to run my social media presence also really thinking, is this going to sell more books or not? If I had to have that thought process, if I tried to be someone I'm not on social media, that would be too much for me. I don't have the energy as a human being to do that, to run my social media as another aspect of my business. I'd love to, right? I mean, I wish I could, but I can't. I also need those human connections that I form on social media too much. I get too much out of it. It's not worth it to me, even though it might sell me more books. I can't do it. I personally can't. If you have the energy left over after your day, that's phenomenal. That's fantastic. Then you can make those decisions based on how many books you're selling and how it's contributing to that. And that's how you can run your social media presence. That's phenomenal. I have nothing but respect for that. You just have to figure out who you are, where you are going to put your energy. Where am I going to allot my personal, points of energy in my day? So how am I going to spread it around? And whatever, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you which way to choose, but that's just how you have to think about it and how you have to make that decision. And the paradox comes is that the more you guide your decisions based on your business concerns, the more you think, I'm going to do this because as a professional, this will help me reach more readers, reach more influencers, and ultimately sell more books. The more you let that guide you, focusing on solely that portion of who you are, to a certain extent, the less effective you get. You will find that in many cases, being more genuinely you actually often works better than trying to be someone you're not. And that's why I think, look, if you need to sell books to pay like your mortgage and put food on your table, you do whatever you have to do. I'm not going to try to tell you that you're making a bad choice. But if writing is your hobby and you just want to be happy, focus first on being genuinely yourself and being who you really are and making genuine connections with people, and put the business aspect secondarily, and you will be a happier person. And that will very possibly actually result in more sales. I can't promise that, but that has been my experience. We'll see how it works out. Talk to me in 2 years. If my sales haven't gone up by then, I may say, boy, I was a schmuck for saying that. I was so wrong. I don't know. But that is my general philosophy. That's the wrong word. That is my general guideline for life, is that you will be happier and enjoy it more if you treat social media through your genuine self and worry secondarily about how it will impact your business and your career. And you will be happier, and you will actually very possibly end up with the same or better results in your career as well. I don't know. You tell me what you think. Please leave comments, argue with me, tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I hear it all the time. I'm married. And I'm JCM Berne, author of Wistful Ascending. Wait, I have the book here. I had a flood, so I had to bring the book out of my basement. A little hardcover. It's got pages. It smells good. These are available for sale. I will sign them and ship them to you. You have to just DM me, and you've got to trust me with PayPal or whatever. But anyway, I hope you have a great day. I hope if you didn't enjoy this video, I hope you find other videos you like more. I hope you read books that you love, whether they're mine or not. And I hope you find pleasure and satisfaction and happiness and human connection on whatever social media platforms you choose to use. That's it. Take care.